The Senate adopts the report of the Committee, Powers and Privilege on an inquiry on its own motion into conduct of Senator Gloria Orwoba, MP, and to establish of the conduct, if the conduct constituted breach of parliamentary privilege, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 9th August 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Committee of Powers and Privilege is established under Section 15(1) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act number 29 of 2017. Section 15(4) of the Act provides for the function of the committee as follows. The functions of the Committee of Power and Privilege shall be to inquire under the conduct of a member whose conduct is alleged to constitute breach of privilege in terms of Section 16. B, perform such other functions as may be specified in this Act. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, Section 15(5) of the Act empowers the Committee of Powers and Privilege to inquire either by its own motion or as a result of a complaint made by any person into the conduct of a member whom conduct is alleged to constitute a breach of privilege in terms of Section 16. Mr. Speaker, the members are as follows. Chairperson, Speaker Kingi, Senator Alexander, point of order.
What is your point of order, Senator Fatuma Adulo?
Chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm requesting if the students who are here can be recognized so that we can discuss this matter comfortably. Thank you. Recognize and release them, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the members are on the list, and I will go through the charges, Mr. Speaker, briefly. Yeah. Charge number 1, Mr. Speaker, is the conduct constituted breach of privilege under Section 16E and Paragraph 7A of the 4th Schedule in the Parliamentary Power and Privilege Act 2017. Count 1, allegation of suits of sexual favor. Mr. Speaker, that the senator of diverse dates made unsubstantiated allegations that there were instances of pursuit of sexual favors in Parliament by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp groups.
Senator.
Mr. Speaker.
Senator Shakila, the chair is on the mic. What is your point of order, Senator Wamatinga?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think it's prudent that you rule on what Senator Duaro has asked. And looking up there, Mr. Speaker, I see that there are some small school children.
You've made your point. You've made your point. We have made arrangements. We are going to recognize them in a moment. We're getting the communication. And
Mr. Speaker, some of the content of these documents, I think they are sensitive, and we should watch on who is in the house when you're talking about them. Thank you.
Very well, very well. That's noted. The communication is coming. We shall, in a moment, deal. Senator Tumo, you are not yet. What's your point of order?
Thank you, Chair. I think apart from releasing the students now here, you should direct Mr. Speaker that until this motion is finalized, no more students should be allowed to the public gallery. I think you should give that direction.
Noted. Senator Karungo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a public house. The debate is live. Even those kids at home are watching. I don't see any problem whatsoever for us discussing this issue. They are here to learn so that they can see what we go through or what we say in this house. So, Mr. Speaker, unless now you have to order we shut even online, so that it becomes a kamukunji or becomes a, you know. So this is not a personal issue. It is a matter of public concern. It is a report of a committee. So I don't see the reason why we should bar anybody from accessing this debate.
Senator Karungu, the chair had ruled, and indeed the people who are in the gallery have already been discharged, and we are going to proceed with the motion. Senator Shagila, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, count 2, allegations of favorism and discrimination, that the Senate in diverse states made unsubstantiated allegations that there was discrimination in Parliament by posting various messages at the Senate business WhatsApp groups and made allegations during a media briefing held in the Media Center, main Parliament building. Mr. Speaker, count 3, allegations of corruption, that the Senate in diverse dates made unsubstantiated allegations that there were cases of corruption in Parliament by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp group. Count 4, allegations of back kicks and legislative agenda, that the Senate on diverse dates made unsubstantiated allegations that there were requests for kickbacks for legislative agenda in Parliament by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp groups. Charge 2, conduct constituting breach of privilege under paragraph 8 of the 4th schedule to the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017 on the Code of Conduct for Members of Parliament. Count 1, allegations disrespecting fellow senators, that the senator on diverse dates published information that was disrespectful towards the fellow senators in the Senate business WhatsApp group. Count 2, allegations of inputting improper motive on fellow senators, that the senator on diverse dates imputed improper motive on other senators by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp groups. All these reports are in the reports. All these postings are in the reports. The committee, noting the gravity of the charges and conduct of the Senator, Gloria Orwoba, MP findings of the committee, and having reviewed the sanctions provided for the Section 17(3) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, as well as the practice in other jurisdictions, finds the Senator Orwoba MP conduct was in breach of parliamentary privilege and recommend that, number 1, pursuant to Section 17(3)(g) of Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, the Senator be suspended from the House of the remainder of the second session for the 13th Parliament. Number 2, pursuant to Section 17(3)(d) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, restrictions of access to the precincts of Parliament defined in Section 3 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, and Standing Order 2 of the Senate Standing Orders, and withholding the use of enjoyment of any unspecified facilities provided to members by Parliament to be applied to the Senator for the remaining of the second session of the 13th Parliament. Admitted and Privilege Act 2017 in the manner stated in the report. Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the committee, I take this opportunity to thank the members of the committee for their immense contribution to the inquiry that culminated to the report. The committee wishes to also thank the Secretariat of the Senate for the necessary support. On behalf of the Committee for Powers and Privilege, I have the honor and pleasure to present the report of the Committee of Powers and Privilege of its inquiry on its own motion into conduct of Senator Gloria Orwoba, MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of Parliament privilege in the Senate. I thank you, and I request Mr. Wamatinga Wahome, MP, to second. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wamatinga, proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second this motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I sat in the committee that discussed the conduct of Senator Gloria Orwoba. What I must say, Mr. Speaker, sir, regardless, we must know that we are all colleagues in this place. We have a collective responsibility to take care of the reputation of this House. We have a collective responsibility to take care of the reputation of members, and we also have a collective and moral obligation to ensure that the standard of this House, as seen by the public out there, does not become affected in whichever way. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's my observation, my humble submission, that we all have other channels of dealing with whatever grievances we might have without resorting into hitting under the berry. And I therefore would want to urge my colleagues, for the remaining 4 years that we'll be in this House, let's embrace collegiality, let's embrace sobriety, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we portray an important and very, 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 very moral obligation of us all to portray this House as a respectable House. Mr. Speaker, sir, we must never forget that people out there do look at us as the pace setters, as role models, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, when there are issues that we must discuss, be it in the social media or even in the floor of the House, let's never forget that out there, people are watching and looking at us and debating what we are doing, and therefore, we must ensure that we do not in any way undermine their responsibility, their privileges, or even the dignity that's associated with being honorable members. Mr. Speaker, sir, being a honorable member has quite a lot of responsibility. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, when we have in public gallery, people, students who come here so that they can learn, let them learn from the best. I do, Mr. Speaker, sir, believe that there are channels that we are able to weigh our grievances, that we can be able, yes, to differ on opinion, to differ on principles, but basically to hold each other and treat each other with a lot of decorum. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is important for this House to commit itself to upholding the traditions, the dignity, and most importantly, the image that it is seen by those people out there. Mr. Speaker, sir, my humble submission is the collective responsibility we have when we walk inside that door makes us and must bind us to ensure that sobriety and, most importantly, dignity is upheld. Mr. Speaker, sir, I second.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry on its own motion into the conduct of Senator Gloria Orwoba, MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of parliamentary privilege laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 9th August 2023. Honorable Senators, I now call upon Senator Cherargei Samson Kiprotich.
In the history that Parliament has been in existence, I've never seen a situation, Mr. Speaker, where such harsh and excessive, almost unreasonable verdict is being meted out on a member. More so, Mr. Speaker, a lady member of Parliament, a young member of Parliament, who should be nurtured, grow, and make women of the Republic proud. Mr. Speaker, If there is a day that I feel ashamed as a senator, it's today, Mr. Speaker. There is one time, Mr. Speaker, that PLO Lumumba said, you should never respond to a mosquito with a hammer. That's what we have done today. I don't agree with certain conducts of Senator Gloria. I don't agree. And many times, I've reached out to Gloria to have a word with her as an elder, Mr. Speaker. And that's how it should be. We all falter, we all make mistakes, but we must walk along with each other, Mr. Speaker. I've said before, Mr. Speaker, if I see an injustice to any senator, may it be on this side or on that side, I'll never walk along with it. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, even if we wanted to pass some judgment on Senator Orwoba, not what I'm seeing in the report, Mr. Speaker, a proposal to suspend her for the remainder of the second session of the 13th Parliament. That is excessive. In all fairness, it's excessive. It's unjust. It's unreasonable. That's not, I don't expect that from the UDA government. You should be nurturing these young senators that you have nominated to this House. We are not the ones who nominated Senator Orwoba. I'm sure you did a proper background check on her. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to go on record as opposed to this report, especially the judgment. You could have even recommended suspending her from 5 sittings. This is the first time she is facing a disciplinary committee before the powers and privileges. And I want to tell you, honorable senators, today you are celebrating because it is Senator Gloria Orwoba. Tomorrow it will be you. Because you want to set a precedent where you do something small, you are expelled for the entire of the session. I want to remind you the words of a senior senator who served here, Senator Orengo. He once sat here and he told Beth Mugo that revolutions eat their own children. And now you can see who does began with Senator Gloria Orwoba. Tomorrow it will be somebody else. On our side, we are used. Our leadership here. So, Mr. Speaker, even if...
what's your point of order, Senator Aaron Cheriot?
Mr. Speaker, Senator Omogeni is a commissioner, a man I respect and hold in high regard. But is it in order for him to want to reduce a report of a committee of this House into the operations of a party? UDA does not feature anywhere. The member who moved the report, for your information, is a member of the minority side. Bwana Commissioner, please respect the office that you hold. Be responsible in your utterances. This is about lead by example. That's why I told you, if I was in your position, Senator Omogeni, these are the matters that you leave as elders, we speak last. You are the person that we defer to as our senior and as a leader, surely. You cannot reduce a committee report to want to play it along party position. You've just seen me trying to consult with Senator, my leader of minority, because I'm trying to see, this is really embarrassing to us as a House, and we are trying to put our heads together to see what can we do to cover ourselves. Please, I request you, my good neighbor and my friend, you can make better decisions than the one you are making this afternoon. Don't reduce this into a party issue. Please, my brother, I beg of you, because you are a commissioner and a man that I respect so much.
Senator Sifuna, what is your point of intervention?
Mr. Speaker, I was a bit concerned by one of the submissions by the leader of majority, that in fact the report of the committee was moved by a member of the minority delegation. Mr. Speaker, that has nothing to do with the political, sides of the House. I have just a minute, Majority Leader, please. I heard you in silence. I am saying that it was a request of the committee, not a request of the minority side, for Senator Shakila to move that motion. She was just doing her job as a member of the committee. That particular point, Majority Leader, I don't think has been made in good faith. And Mr. Speaker, I wish that it is clear that Senator Shakila only moved the report upon request of her committee itself. It's not a directive that came from the leadership of a minority side.
Senator Okongo Mogeni, you take note that this is a serious matter that concerns actually the privilege of this Honorable House. And therefore, you out of order to make reference to the fact that this is either minority or majority, or even to make reference to specific utterances regarding the particulars of either party in terms of nomination or otherwise. So kindly refrain as senior ranking member and use parliamentary and appropriate language.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for the chair, and I can't question your directive. But I wonder, under what standing order was the leader of majority intervening? Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, the point is, and I want to make it very clear, on issues that touch on an injustice, I will not be swayed to go by majority. I'm willing to go on record that I've stood alone on this matter, Mr. Speaker. Because as I've said, Mr. Speaker, we must be a house, even when we go to our courts of law, Mr. Speaker. The judgment that you pass on a crime, Mr. Speaker, must be reasonable, not excessive, Mr. Speaker. And I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, that we are setting a precedent that will come back to bite us. Listen to me, senators. It will come back to bite us. And I will not, Mr. Speaker, I want to be on record, Mr. Speaker, I will not dance on the grave of the deceased. I will not, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Speaker, is that I do not agree for a moment with some of the conduct of Senator Gloria Orwoba. But what punishment should we, as a House, meet or not? That's the question that I'm raising this afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've watched the way we have carried the proceedings of this House, Mr. Speaker, and I've stated on many occasions, Mr. Speaker, that in a Commonwealth Parliament, debates of this House should be lively, Mr. Speaker. Every Wednesdays, I watch proceedings of the House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. I see the Prime Minister of UK. He comes to the House, he sits there, he's asked questions, people shout shame. But in this House, we have set a precedent where you are supposed to sit as if you are in a funeral, Mr. Speaker. We are going the wrong way, Mr. Speaker. When we fought to have a parliament that is independent, Mr. Speaker, we wanted to get a climate that helps us to conduct our business, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, as practicing Christians, we owe it a duty to ourselves to nurture this young senator called Gloria, Mr. Speaker. And the standing orders are very clear, Mr. Speaker. You can start with a warning, you can start with a suspension of 3 days, then you elevate it. If you reach a time when you are saying now you are suspending her for the remainder of the term, we'll all agree. But on the first occasion that she's being taken before the Powers and Privileges Committee, and then you bring a report to us that she should be suspended for the remainder of her term, Mr. Speaker, that is punishment that is harsh, to say the least. So I want to plead with you, senators. There are many things that Senator Gloria does that I don't agree with, including when we raised issues of members of minority who are arrested.
Senator Okongo, there is, yes, Senator Wambua, what's your point of information? And would you like to be informed in the first place by Wambua?
Mr. Speaker, Wambua is a Churchill. I will not decline to be informed by him.
Proceed, Senator Wambua.
Mr. Speaker, so that Senator Omogen walks the narrow path and the right path, he has 3 times made reference to suspension for the remainder of the term. The Speaker, I think the decision of the committee, if I not get it right, was that suspension for the remainder of the session, which expires maybe in December. Yeah, so that we don't mislead the House and we don't mislead the public, that the senator remains really on the straight and the narrow. It is
for the session, not for the term. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kongo, I'm sure you are informed as you proceed with your...
I told you it's always good to be informed of our church elder. And I stand corrected. I've seen it's true that it's for the remainder of the second session, which takes us to the end of this session, which is December, which I agree. The second point, Mr. Speaker, I've read in the report, though I don't have the details, I've read on the report, Mr. Speaker, that this matter is subject of court proceedings. I've not seen details of the case number because this report has been circulated while we're in session, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, if indeed it's true that Senator Orwoba raised the issue of a matter that was pending before court, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of justice, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of justice, Mr. Speaker, the committee should have given room to the court to adjudicate and make a verdict on the matters that were raised by Senator Orwoba in court. And I want to bring it to your attention, Mr. Speaker, that the current leader of minority in the National Assembly, was himself subjected to such a punishment by the National Assembly. But when the matter went to court, Mr. Speaker, the High Court of the Republic of Kenya, the matter was heard by Justice Odunga, Mr. Speaker, and Justice Odunga made an observation, Mr. Speaker, that any time the powers and privileges wants to punish a member of parliament, the punishment should not be excessive, the punishment should not be unreasonable. So, Mr. Speaker, I plead with the House, it is right to pass punishment against Senator Orwoba, but I plead with the House to pass to support a punishment that is fair, that is reasonable, that gives Senator Gloria an opportunity to reform and to correct our wayward, misconduct. So, Mr. Speaker, I finally agree that it's in order for her to apologize to the House, and I plead with you, Senator Gloria, that you are a young senator. You have a long way to go. We love you as our colleague. We also plead with you. Please, to know how to conduct yourself as a member of this House, where you are elders. I'm speaking to you as your uncle. Please, also learn from what has happened today. In future, conduct yourself in a manner that does not demean the stature of a senator who has got the privilege of sitting in this House. And remember, your partyhood has been very fair to you, to give you a nomination at your age. So please, Senator Gloria Orwoba, go back, do self-reflection, and watch how you use social media. You can see even Trump, the former president of the United States of America, is in trouble because of the tweets he made while he was president. So please, Senator Gloria, take a moment of reflection. And know how to conduct yourself while serving as a senator. So, Mr. Speaker, I oppose the motion.
Senator Cheriot Aaron, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise under Standing Order number 110 and wish to read as follows. 110.1, that a senator who wishes to postpone to some future occasion the further discussion of a question which has been proposed from the chair may, for reasons stated, claim to move that the debate be now adjourned. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to humbly call on the collective wisdom of the House, because this is a very emotive issue. Number one, it involved a colleague. She might be right in your opinion, she might be wrong. Number two, the person who chaired this committee is the Speaker of the House. the person who we are told is victim to these harassments is none other than the clerk of the House. Whichever way you look at it, there can never be a winner and a loser in this conversation. We will look so dirty. We will look so silly as a House. It will be bad of us eventually. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I must concede that it was due to a lapse of concentration on my side. If I had known that there was going to be such a debate, perhaps earlier the prudent thing to do would have been to consult with the leader of minority, walk to the Speaker's house, and sought that this matter be handled perhaps differently. You know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that last time, when the Assembly had such a situation where a report was brought and the House defeated it, they amended their standing orders. Today, if you go to the National Assembly, the Powers and Privilege Committee is not chaired by their Speaker, for the obvious reason that it is not just proper and decent for you to be Speaker and preside over a House, bring a committee, report chaired by you, then it be subject to discussion by senators who will critique your work. Some will say certain things that you may not like. So for the very many reasons, and I want to plead with everybody, just everybody who's, all my colleagues, that I called the minority leader behind. We have a room called the consultations room, and I pleaded with him. And I said with my brother, you are my senior and an elder. Do you like this debate going on in the House? He said, I'm equally agonizing, and I'm trying to speak to members of my delegation to share with them that, what do we do? Therefore, I consulted with him and I said, can we at least seek leave of the House that you allow us to perhaps as a leadership retreat back and have a reconsideration of this matter? Then we'll find a way of resolving this without having to air our dirty linen in public. So I want to plead with you, colleague senators. You perhaps maybe hold a different view on this issue. There's something you may want to say, but I want to humbly plead with you that allow us, in the same way that we have consulted with the leader of minority, and perhaps he'll have a chance to explain and say himself what he thinks about this, that, Mr. Speaker, I want to move that debate be adjourned on this question until a later date. And I want to request, Mr. Speaker, that the leader of minority seconds me in that proposal. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader, Senator Amazayo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House long enough, and I think this is the first time that we have come across such a challenge. Mr. Speaker, it requires wisdom to keep dignity of this House, and we should not expose it by washing some kind of linen that might not be very good to the public. Whatever the leader of majority has stated, I fully second it, as it will go a long way to sort out quite a number of issues. I second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, now pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 110, I would like to propose the motion on the request by the majority leaders to whether or not this debate on this motion can proceed or not. And I will allow members to contribute on the request by the leader of majority, seconded by the minority, to adjourn the motion or otherwise, and not on the merits of the particular motion that had earlier on begun to be debated on. And Honorable members, I now propose the question that the debate be now adjourned. Karungu Thang, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, not to be seen, not to agree with the leader of majority when you are rearranging the order paper. You said we are going to order number 8 and we jumped the statements and questions because you wanted this issue to be expedited with before we close for recess, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know whether we are going against your ruling. I seek your indulgence on the issue.
Senator Karungu, from what I've heard you saying, you are in opposition to the adjournment, and you can speak to that, whether you do not want the motion to be adjourned or not. So I will allow Senator Halwale.
Mr. Speaker, what the leader of the majority has now brought before this House is what is called a dilatory motion. Mr. Speaker, a dilatory motion attempts to stop proceedings on a motion that had otherwise been procedurally brought before the House. Mr. Speaker, I want to invite you to look at 110(3). Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I read. If the Speaker is of the opinion that a dilatory motion is an abuse of the proceedings of the Senate, the Speaker may forthwith put the question thereon or decline to propose it. Mr. Speaker, 110(3) invites you to make a decision before you propose the motion to open debate. And Mr. Speaker, I therefore want you to exercise 110(3), and as you do so, consider two things. The first one, Mr. Speaker, is that it will be an abuse of the proceedings of the Senate if a motion which has been approved by the Speaker is then stood down. Mr. Speaker, it will also be an abuse of the proceedings of the Senate if a motion which has got clear timelines is then stood down so that the timelines are negated. Mr. Speaker, this motion is supposed to be concluded within 14 days. So if you make that determination and you allow us to go ahead, there are many who want to support and there are many who want to oppose, and I'm glad to tell members on this point of order that as the whip of the Kenya Kwanza, we have no Kenya Kwanza position. This is a private matter to this House that is supposed to do housekeeping. If you are happy that you can be called a rapist, then you'll oppose the motion. So this is a housekeeping motion. Let's keep out the issue of the opposition, the issue of the government side, the issue of parties' coalitions. We just allow members to follow their own minds, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni, indeed the chair had made a determination under 110(2) as regards the dilatory motion that was moved by the leader of majority. And therefore, the question was put for members to debate as to whether we adjourn or not. So your concern was already taken care of by the time the chair made that particular decision. I will allow members to debate on that dilatory motion as to whether or not we will adjourn or otherwise not adjourn. I have got my dashboard full. We need to limit time for purposes of progress. We will allow each member to take 2 minutes to speak on the motion moved by the majority leader. And I'll go by Senator Samson Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, mine are quick. I don't have a problem when there is an adjournment for the House leadership to build a consensus on the matter that is before, considering that it's more of a private issue and it concerns a member. So I don't have a problem. My only concern, Mr. Speaker, and which will provide guidance, is that we had stood down some other urgent business of the order paper. Maybe you can allow the House leadership to congregate and consult, then allow the order paper to proceed as they consult. Then I think that would be very important, Mr. Speaker, so that we don't, today is Thursday, we are going next week for devolution conference. If the House leadership can consult and give a consultation with other members, then it will be in order. Mr. Speaker, I think we have done before. Even in many cases where we have requested for suspension or adjournment to some point so that we can consult, Mr. Speaker. But I think as a House, I agree that such matters in future, we must seek leave to go in camera, Mr. Speaker, because it concerns a member. I know Article 118 and open parliamentary proceedings, Mr. Speaker. In future, we must allow such issues, seek leave, go in camera, because it's about discussing a member. So with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I allow the wisdom of the House to prevail. Thank you.
Senator Beatrice Ogola Akinyi.
Honorable Speaker, I rise, I'd put my button earlier, but now that I've been given an opportunity, I'm wondering that the majority leader would come in at this point of time, the minority leader comes at this point of time. This has been going on all along for the last few weeks. As you watched, we expressed a desire that you come and sort out this issue as leaders, and we all watched. Then we come in at this point and say, let us give it time, you want to find an alternative.
I will limit the members whom I'll allow to speak so that we progress, and I'll give 2 more on the majority side and 2 more on the minority side. And you'll take 2 minutes each. Senator Keroche Tabitha Karanja.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also rise maybe to support what the majority and minority have proposed. But mine is just to ask, as the leaders, why did we allow it to come this far? Why did we allow it to come this far? So that will be the question. I know the minority has said that he's been here for long. You've been here for long. You needed to advise the young coming senator that it is supposed to be done like this or this. Now, not even that. It is to ask, why wouldn't we? Because I had called her personally and asked her, what is all this? She told me she's gone all the offices and nobody has helped her. So that's why she drew it to the social media. I'm not supporting her, but maybe she couldn't find anywhere else to go. So as the leaders, I think we failed in this. We should have taken it before it reached to this point. So going forward, we ensure that will never happen again. Thank you. Thank you.
Honorable members, the direction the chair gave was that our debate is on whether to adjourn the motion or not, and not a debate on the motion. So as we speak, very well. Before I put the question, Senator Muma. Give Senator Muma the mic. proceed to the dispatch box, Senator Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is to seek some direction on what happens. Leader of majority and leader of minority are asking for adjournment, but we are not clear for what. They have actually not given direction in that regard. I think as members of this House, we need to be a House that will stand for justice for all people involved. I wish to state that the clerk who has been accused of very serious issues is not present in this House. We are being watched by the public, which would include children of the clerk, the wife of the clerk, and allegations made are serious allegations that we need. I would want us to resolve this issue the best way possible, even if it is internal. But we want direction. Mr. Speaker, I think minority and majority leader may be abusing their space if they don't give us clear direction on how we resolve this issue. Those of you who are on WhatsApp are aware this is a matter that has gone on for long. We actually need to put this to rest.
Lastly, I'll give this to the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, without going to the merit and demerit of the report or the motion that is before this House, I really want to thank both the majority and the minority leaders for that important move that they have taken this afternoon. You know, Mr. Speaker, when things come to the family, you know this House is a family. It is always important, really, to caution ourselves. When a member of the family is under siege, it is always important for the whole family to come together and think in another alternative way, other than debating this report. If we could go ahead and debate this motion and punch holes, and the chair of this committee is our speaker, I think, Mr. Speaker, that could have been gone to the wrong way. So I want to say that I really support, but I'll advise my sister. I called out to my office, Senator Gloria. I want my dear sister to listen to me. As Njorin Cheke Heonda, I called my sister to my office before this committee sat. And I told her there are things that really need not to progress the way they were progressing. So Senator, I will really request...
Senator Kathuri, the debate was in the confines of...
Yeah, fine, I understand. I understand standing on, but there is a question I want to give, an advice to my sister. I'm not retrogressing,
within the time,
but I'm requesting her from today.
Thank you. Honorable members, order, please. Order. Senator Kaduri. Senator Kathuri, please take your seat. Please take your seat. Senator Cherargei, take your seat.